Annexed Cut is an extract from Sampson's Map of America, showing views respecting the New World as constituting the island of Atlantis, alright? The New World? No, it's the Old World because it is Atlantis, alright? It is called Atlantis Insula or Atlantis Island of Nicolau Sampson. It says Uri Coechea in the Matopeca Colimbana puts this map under 1600 and speaks of a second edition in 1688, alright? This is from the 1600s, which must be an error. It must be an error. Oh. Alright, so it must be an error. So they're saying, you know, this is from the 1600s, and they're trying to talk about the date. But it says Harvard College Library possesses a copy of this, and they changed the words. They literally changed the words. And that was later on, 1741. And again, this is from a very scholarly book. You know, when we're talking about Atlantis, see the ATL, that's a Nahuatl word. ATL, that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. That's Nahuatl, that's an American dialect. The tis at the end is the Greek. They added the tis. So Atlan or Aslan, Atlan. We had towns called Atatlan. Atatlan in Panama, Honduras, you know, in different places. Atatlan, Guatemala, Atatlan. And then you add the tis, Atlantis, right? Atlantis, because that's what they remember. You know, remember the Greeks are telling the story. All right? Now let's see what else these Greeks know.
I want to show you some things that I don't think you even knew existed. It goes against everything Manifest Destiny teaches about Native Americans. And I want you to know this part of our history because people erased it, and we'll get to that later on in the program. Erased it intentionally. Right. Erased it intentionally.
All right, now I just want to read real quick from this book. We're going to actually get into this book a lot in future videos. I just want to read a little excerpt from this book that correlates with what we were just talking about. I was showing the map, you know, in the 1600s. Now, this book is called The New Atlantis. It says here, begun by the Lord Berlin, Viscount St. Albans, and continued by R.H. Esquire. Actually, this book is very famous because it was written by Francis Bacon. All right, so-called Francis Bacon. All right, who's Francis Bacon? Is that really Shakespeare? Some say it is. All right, Francis Bacon, and he wrote this in 1660. Bacon is a Sephardic Jewish name. Bacon, Francis Bacon was a Sephardic Jew, a crypto Jew. And I'm going to page 2 right here. And just, again, real quick, we're going to get it, you know, just to correlate. Just zoom in one more time. All right, it says, the next day's conference relates how that though they lived remote and unknown to all other nations, yet they had the knowledge of the languages, books, and affairs of those that lie at farthest distance. How the great Atlantis, which we call America. All right, again, how the great Atlantis, which America. Atlantis is America. Remember Atlantis, that's how they added the tis. ATL, that's a Nahuatl word. Atlantis, which we call America, abounded once in tall ships. How the people of Peru through the South Sea and those of Mexico through the Atlantic to the Mediterranean Sea did both in 10 years space make 2 great expeditions upon Ben Salem. But by the valor of one Ataban, king thereof, a wife and great warrior, who cut off their land forces from their ships, and entoiled both their navies and camps with greater force by sea and land, were repulsed and dismissed by him when they were at his mercy. All right, so again, just want to go ahead and just remind you that when we talk about Atlantis, which we call America, that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about the true old world. All right.
In the book Prehistoric Structures of Central America, Who Erected Them? A lecture by Martin Inham Townsend, Troy, New York. The ancient Greek and Roman scholars knew of the existence of the Western continent. It says here, that ancient book entitled The Book of Wonders, ascribed to Aristotle, contained the following. When the Carthaginians, who were masters of the Western Ocean, observed that many traders and other men, attracted by the fertility of the soil and the pleasant climate had fixed their homes, they feared that the knowledge of this land should reach other nations. A great concourse to it of men from the various lands of the earth would follow. That the conditions of life then so happy on that island would not only be unfavorably affected, but the Carthaginian Empire itself suffer injury. The dominion of the sea be wrested from their hands. And so they issued a decree that no one, under penalty of death, should thereafter sail thither. And they're talking about America. This passage is quoted not merely with a claim that it refers to the continent of America, but for the purpose of showing how carefully the Phoenician people, whether Asiatic, Carthaginian, or Spanish, guarded from the great world the foreign discoveries which they had made, and where their kindred were enjoying prosperity, and to enable us to see how little likely their discoveries would be to come to the knowledge of the great mass of mankind. Let us look for a moment at some of the things which ancient Greeks and Latin authors have said indicating their knowledge of the existence of the Western continent. Crates, a commentator on Homer, is quoted by authority as Strabo, a very learned author of the century before Christ, as saying that Homer means in his account of the Western Ethiopians. Western Ethiopians. Alright, so what do they mean by Western Ethiopians? So who's the Eastern Ethiopians? Also, there's two. Alright, so I know we mentioned this before. On Drop and follow Drop Nation, if you know about the three Ethiopias, or the farthest Ethiopia, which is America, Ethiopia, right? Etymology, burnt skin, or people of dark skin in Ethiopia, right? So there was people of dark skin in the Americas as well. So the Western Ethiopians, right? So this author is letting you know that when they're saying Western Ethiopians, they're talking about the Americas. It says here that as saying that Homer means in his account of the Western Ethiopians, the inhabitants of the Atlantis or the Hesperides. There we go. Again, the Atlantis or the Hesperides, as the unknown world of the West was then previously called. So real quick, I just wanted to show you what I meant about the three Ethiopias and what they were talking about in the Middle Ages, what was known in the Middle Ages, the Middle Ages. I'm in the book here, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. All right.
Right there, right there. Oh, it's a way to send money. To friends and family. Even if they bank somewhere different than you do. Zelle. The answer is Zelle. Yeah! Zelle. Look forward in your banking app.
Living with schizophrenia can feel overwhelming. People think that I can't have a career, but I can. I work.
So this book correlates a lot of the story or mythology or myths of Prester John, which AKA we see most likely was King David, and his land or the empire of Prester John, emperor of the Ethiopians, was actually in the whole Americas. All right. So it says, where then is the remarkable country? Our magnificent, writes Prester John, dominates the three Indias. Again, if you saw my past video, yes, there was three Indias and three Ethiopias. You see, even India at that time was not named India, it was called Hindustan. So when they're talking about the three Indias, they're talking about the tropical zones in the earth, where the people, indigo, people of dark skin, the Indians, right, lived. Not just, we're talking about like Hindus or like Indians, like what Columbus called the Aborigines. We're just talking about people that lived in tropical zones, and extends to farther India. The farthest India, that's America. Just like the farthest Ethiopia, where the body of St. Thomas the Apostle rests. The legend of St. Thomas, right, supposed to be in India. But we're talking about America. It reaches through the desert towards the place of the rising of the sun, and continues through the valley of deserted Babylon, close by the Tower of Babel. Close to the Tower of Babel. Alright, I'm going to show you guys historically what resembles the Tower of Babel. What's an exact match of what Herodotus and Theodorus describes as the Tower of Babel, and that is the Pyramid of Cholula in Mexico. So he's saying that Prester John's land, right, was very close by the Tower of Babel. Suddenly, the vague immensity takes on biblical tinge. This is deepened when John informs us that his territories comprise the Pison,
which is one of the four rivers that rise up out of the terrestrial paradise. All right, we're still talking about the Garden of Eden, a fertile place, right? America, according to the second chapter of Genesis. Furthermore, like the land of Havilah, and there's another land just like Hesperides, Eden, or Havilah, we're talking about America, around which the biblical Pison flows. John's country contains gold. All right, we're filled with gold over here, and onyx. It also flows with milk and honey. We already got the honey account, right, in Columbus' book. A hint at that location of this realm is provided by Genesis 2:13, which tells us that another of the four rivers of Eden, the Gihon, compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. The whole land of Ethiopia. John tells us that his palace is in Susa, the ancient capital of Persia, but this also implied proximity to Ethiopia in the vague geographical imagination of medieval Europe. Alright, so let's read this footnote right here. It says, this confused geography has ancient and honorable roots. The first verse of the book of Esther describes the realm of the Persian king Ahasuerus, whose palace also was at Susa, as extended from India even unto Ethiopia. In Greek and Roman authors, there is a similar vagueness about a vast region taken like India and Ethiopia. We just read from the other book, Prehistoric Structures of Central America, right? How they were saying that the Western Ethiopians, that is really Atlanteans or America, right? So again, it's telling us here that these terms of India and Ethiopia has a similar vagueness. It's too vague to tell you exactly where it is. It's all over. The latter, even in its narrowest sense, comprises a much larger area than present-day Ethiopia. It's a much larger area. They're not just talking about present-day Ethiopia, okay? And beginning just south of the first cataract of the Nile, and about its relationship with the better-known Persia. In the apocryphal Acts of St. Thomas, the apostle moves easily between Persia and India, starting roughly with the 5th century apocryphal writer, the Pseudo-Abdias, who describes the exploits of the apostles Thomas, Bartholomew, and Matthew in each of the three Indias. The three Indias. This latter concept became a standard one in the Middle Ages. Alright, so this was a standard concept in the Middle Ages. I'm trying to show you that when we read in these old books and they're just saying, oh, he lived in India, or he lived in the Western Ethiopia, or in Ethiopia, you have to really research what they're talking about, because these places didn't exist back then, right? As a specific country or location like what we think of today. All right, again, one of the three Indias, it says, faced Ethiopia. One of the three Indias faced Ethiopia. According to the Pseudo-Abdias, the second faced Persia, and the third occupied the ends of the world, the ends of the earth, right? Farthest India, America, where they hadn't gone, between the ocean and the realm of darkness, because that's where the sun sets too, right? The west, underworld, a lot of underworld mythology related to America, especially when you read Egyptian hieroglyphs and basically most of the Mesoamerican culture. They also say, that is the underworld, right? Because the sun sets there. The third became especially fruitful for the geographical imagination. All right, so listen to this. The third India, right, became especially fruitful for the geographical imagination, the region of untold highlands, in which the plural term Indias, etymologically one and the same as Indies. Okay, the Indias. When you hear in Indias in any of these old books, they're just talking about the Indies, West Indies, alright? Came to rest for one and for all. Continuing with the footnote, there also were less mysterious, more valid definitions of the three Indias. Among medieval geographers, listen to this, among medieval geographers, but for most Europeans, even learned ones, the term covered a vast and distant region of dark-skinned peoples. All right, India wasn't over there when we think of India as a country today. When they were referring to India or Ethiopia, right? It just meant a distant region of dark-skinned people. What does Ethiopia mean? A burnt skin or burnt face, right? It doesn't mean a specific country like what we think today. It was a region covered a vast distant region of dark-skinned peoples culminating in a countless array of islands in one direction and Ethiopia, the biblical Kush, is the other. So it says to the extent that his blackness, right, his blackness, or his skin color, when they're talking about Prester John or King David, was that of an Ethiopian. Right? The extent of his blackness was that of an Ethiopian. John's emerging coloration had a long and not always unfavorable history in European eyes. It should be pointed out that, like the geographical term Ethiopia, the anthropological ones, Ethiop, and Ethiopian, were in ancient and medieval times thoroughly ambiguous. All right, these terms were thoroughly ambiguous. When we're reading Greeks mention Ethiopians, we have to be very careful of what we're reading. We have to really research, trace the word etymologically, and see what they're trying to say to us. All right. So again, the anthropological ones, Ethiopia, were in ancient and medieval times thoroughly ambiguous. When they referred to someone from a specific region, they were close to our modern usage, even though that region, which began at the Upper Nile and had its capital at Meroe, sometimes stretched southward and eastward as far as the imagination would allow. But Ethiopian served to designate color. Again, but Ethiopian served to designate color before it came to be applied to a region. Again, what does Ethiopian mean? It just means you, so-called Negro. They're talking about dark-skinned people, color. They're not talking about that you're from Ethiopia, the country, or that region in Africa. Again, but Ethiopian served to designate color before it came to be applied to a region. The Greek Aethios, from which it is derived, literally meant burnt face, and referred to any person of black complexion. Any person of black complexion, talking about you. I've been telling you this whole time. Whatever his place of origin, Are you of a so-called black complexion, dark skin, and you're living in America? You're an Ethiopian then. You understand what they're trying to say? Homer said of the Ethiopians, listen to this, came from the Greeks right now. Homer said of the Ethiopians that they live at the ends of the earth. The Ethiopians live at the ends of the earth. They're talking about America. That was so far for them at that time. Some near the sunrise and some near the sunset. What they're trying to tell you, that there's Ethiopians or so-called black people, black complexion, living all over the world where the sun rises and where it sets. In later antiquity, the word tended to become restricted to black Africans. So this became restricted eventually to black Africans, meaning either any Negro or someone specifically from Ethiopia. Alright? With parentheses. The biblical term Cush and Cushi, which may have been specifically geographical designations from the outset, came to be translated Ethiopia and Ethiopian. So eventually they turned Cush to mean the same as Ethiopia, but it was never like that in the beginning, respectively, and the ambiguity was thereby reinforced. Alright? So the attitudes toward the Ethiopians or Cushites on the part of both the ancient Greek and the Old Testament literatures are strikingly free of the color prejudices of later times. All right, so when the Greeks or the Old Testament is talking about Ethiopians, it's not the same as later on when they're referencing the same word. All right, that's what he's trying to tell you. All right, true. The implication of the Greek term burnt face and of Jeremiah's question, can the Ethiopian change his skin or the leopard's his spots, is that the Ethiopian complexion is not desirable. But this approval is deep. The Ethiopians had unfortunately been burnt black by the sun, but this had not affected his soul. Indeed, for Herodotus, it had not even harmed his appearance, for in one passage in the Persian Wars, we read that the Ethiopians are said to be the tallest and handsomest men in the whole world. All right, you heard that, right? This admiration of their stature and physical impressiveness is an attitude to be found elsewhere in ancient literature. All right, so just wanted to come over to this book so we can clear that whole concept of Western Ethiopians. We just heard the Greeks in the other book mention, talk about the Western Ethiopians. All right, so now you know what they mean. And we're going to go back to that book, all right? Pliny also, 631-36, locates the western Ethiopians somewhere in the Atlantic. This shows that Crates and Pliny believed that the great poet Homer believed in the existence of a great continent on the western shore of the Atlantic Ocean. Plato says in his Timaeus in chapter 6, and this is a story we all know, the sea, the Atlantic Ocean, was indeed navigable and had an island fronting the mouth which you in your tongue call the Pillars of Hercules. So saying, very important, Plato, how he says that in his time, you can't cross the Atlantic, it's not navigable. Because when he's retelling the story of Atlantis, he's saying that it was navigable, so in his time it's not, right? And this island, he says, is larger than Libya and Asia put together. And there's a passage hence for travelers of that day to the rest of the islands, as well as from those islands to the whole opposite of the continent that surrounds the Braille Sea. It says here, Humboldt quotes that Anaxagoras, who was born 500 years BC and was at most prominent Greek philosopher, speaks of the grand division of the world beyond the ocean. Alien in his Varia Historia, Book 3, Chapter 18, cites Theopompus, an eminent Greek historian born about 300 years BC, as stating that the Meropians inhabit a large continent beyond the ocean, in comparison with which the known world was but an island. Aristotle says in chapter 84 and 85, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, they say that an inhabited island was discovered by the Carthaginians, which abounded in forests and navigable rivers, and fruits of all kinds. Alright, we just read, right? Distant from the continent, many days sail. And while the Carthaginians were engaged in making voyages to this land, and some had even settled there on account of the fertility of the soil, the Senate decreed that no one thereafter, under penalty of death, should voyage thither. Aristotle was born 384 years before Christ. So you hear that? They made that a law. You couldn't go to the Americas. They made it a law. You hear that? Go research that. Diodorus of Sicily, who lived in the century preceding the Christian era, says in his book 519 and 20 that it was the Phoenicians instead of the Carthaginians who were cast upon a most fertile island opposite of Africa, where the climate was that of perpetual spring, and that the land was the proper habitation for gods rather than men. They were talking about you, alright, America, the habitation for God. You are the gods, right? That they, got the corn from the gods, right? That taught them everything. He speaks of the continent, however, at length and with great detail, enumerating its fertile valleys and navigable rivers, its rich, abundant fruits and supply of game, its valuable forests, and its genial climate. Pliny quotes Statius Sebosus in his volume 2, page 106, as saying that the two Hesperides and 42 days sail from the coast of Africa. The two Hesperides, again, Hesperides. Alright? Continuing in the book, Prehistoric Structures of Central America, Who Erected Them, written in 1895, says here, the soil, climate, and productions of the peninsula of Yucatan, and that part of Mexico and Guatemala, where these prehistoric remains are found, are precisely what are described by the European writers who speak of the beauty, the loveliness, and the grandeur of the Hesperides. Alright, you heard that, right? The way they described the Hesperides is what you find here in Central America and Mexico. Alright, listen, right? And the homes founded by the Eastern adventurers beyond the Western Ocean. Alright, so talking about the Euphrates River, right? Shout out to Tandra for bringing this to us, our awareness, right? This is a book called A Sailor's Sketchbook of Human and Animal Curiosity, Early Modern Amsterdam. Alright, and this is, I guess, mostly a Mohawk American native. It says here, Sikh Mohawk Indians made at the Blau John Inn, 1764. Alright, so we're going to go to this part of the book, and as you can see here on the right, an animal, at the top here. If you don't know what it is, we'll explain soon. But the book is basically talking about an advertisement, right? So let's read about this. It says here, the poster pictures a South American tapir that was on display at an Amsterdam inn called the White Elephant or White Elephant. Like the Blauwjaan Inn, the White Elephant also capitalized on the influx of curiosities in Amsterdam. Animals probably were purchased at the docks of the East India Company or from sailors returning from overseas, who might bring back a monkey or a tropical bird, knowing that they could be sold to the inn's proprietors. These inns were not just public curiosity cabinets. However, for the animals and objects on display also were offered for sale to those who could afford them. Thus, the inn's curious sights were not only exhibited for a fee, but were also rare and expensive commodities sold to wealthy collectors throughout Europe. The resultant mingling of social groups and practices was exceptional. The advertising poster that Belton preserved in his scrapbook probably was posted by the door of White Elephant Inn and other sites around the city, where it enticed viewers to come and see. The striking black and white woodcut of the unusual looking tapir attracts the eye so that even those who were not fluent readers might stop. Alright, so they're talking about, this advertisement right here, right? Alright. Look and even go in. The text follows with a broad invitation. Alright, so this is what the advertisement says, okay? Listen to this. So it says, to all gentlemen, ladies, burghers, merchants, and furthermore, to all lovers of animals, to come and see this rarity, which many writers say does not anywhere in the world. It had been captured in great difficulty and cost in the river Euphrates in America. Again, where did it get captured? In the river Euphrates. The river Euphrates in America. This is probably an error, he says. The Euphrates River is far from America, but geographical accuracy clearly is not the issue here. So they're like, no, but they can't be talking about Euphrates River, right? Well, we'll see, right? The work of the posters is to conjure up an exotic locale for a beast that had not been seen by anyone in this country ever. Attracting of this uncommon sight. Such a description fires the viewer's imagination. Most would never travel to America, but the poster offers an opportunity to encounter that faraway place at the local pub. Belton's sketches give rare insight into the type of response such encounters elicited, for he does not picture the animal as he saw it, surrounded by onlookers in the White Elephant Inn. Rather, he paints a colorful gulch of several tapirs grazing peacefully in the waters of what is undoubtedly meant to be the Euphrates River in America. Undoubtedly meant to be the Euphrates River in America. Right? The river and its banks are suggested with vague washes of blue and green. Real quick, so in Costa Rica, so as you can see, this is the color of the river, so a blue river, right? Blue or green river. Alright. So in Costa Rica, you would also actually will find literally a danta or tapir in the blue river or green river, as you can see here. It says here Rio Celeste, magical waters, and there's one over here. Alright, so you can see the tapir. It's actually native here to Costa Rica and a lot of places in the Americas in the tropical rainforest. Tapir in a blue river. Alright, literally. It's not a mythical place. Euphrates River. Could they have been talking about, the Amazon River? Right, near the Orinoco. Again, blue river, right? With a tapir. Alright, so I want to finish up this part of this series, this video. I know you've been here 2 hours with me, and if you're still here, then you're one of the real ones. You're really one of the real ones. All right, so I want to finish up with this book, Atlantis in America, by Ivor Sapp and George Erickson, and Jaguar. He's been going in deep with this in his channel. We've been smashing this book up, and a lot of different books. So check that out. Check that series out, Atlantis in America. We got a lot of parts coming out. So in this book, I'm going to page 9. It says here, to many minds, the stories of myth were revived by these startling discoveries. Christopher Columbus even suggested that he might have discovered the original Garden of Eden. We already got that, right? The Church of Rome recoiled at that notion. State authorities and historians of the age of reason, who had long dismissed myth as a conduit of knowledge, similarly dismissed the Americas as a site of significant ancient civilization. So you see, they would dismiss it on purpose. But did not the discovery of so vast and sophisticated an empire at America's heart require the rational sciences to at least consider these civilizations as an important link in man's cultural history? The Catholic Church and conventional science both answered that essential question in the negative, so they didn't want to write purposely. In the 16th century, the Church of the Inquisition decreed that the peoples of the Americas were too primitive. Their city-states were judged more recent than Jesus Christ and the civilizations of the Mediterranean that had preceded it. So you see that they just gave us more recent time. But it's all made up. This chronology, everything is all made up. In the 20th century, American archaeology echoed that edict by declaring that the ancient Maya emerged from barbarism during the 1st or 2nd century of the Christian era. They were judged too reasoned and too pagan to have played a significant role in the development of worldwide civilization. So you see that? They're taking credit from people who did originate civilization. Right? In fact, the constructions of ancient American cultures not only had similar means of design as their star temples, those found in the Middle East, they had earlier devised a mathematics superior to any other in the world. However, while admitting these advanced civilizations were remarkable and surely older than some cities in Europe, historians soon pronounced that their constructions were not the equal of ancient sites in Egypt or Mesopotamia. Experts assured that the Eurocentric world that the American city-states had not been occasioned by a long period of development, but had somehow spontaneously sprung from a more primitive people dubbed inspired savages. See what they call them, right? Inspired savages. The possibility that the advanced cultures of the Old World and the New World could have been interrelated was dismissed and impossible and preposterous. Alright, so they made sure they had a plan, they had an agenda when they were doing all this, alright? They weren't just doing this because they were stupid. They were doing this on purpose. Quashing all speculation that the step pyramid builders of the Americas could have been related to the ancient Middle East, archaeologists pronounced that the construction of even the crudest temples in the Americas had not begun until after the pyramid building had ceased in Egypt, Sumer and in Sumer's recipient cultures of Babylon and Akkad. But we already know that's false. We just got it from Smithsonian.com, right? Kalisuccess420's. These simplistic declarations have been proven false. Alright? We've already seen that. These simplistic declarations, we have proven that false. Alright? This is false, people. Alright? You want to keep believing over there in Egypt, Kemet, and all that, it's all the Babylonian. It's false. These simplistic declarations have been proven false. Only in the last few decades of this century have we realized that the known Maya sites are much older than previously thought, reaching back over 4,000 years at Cuello in, alright, the age of discovery says here, this is the reconstruction of the Temple of Marduk in Babylon, it says, 600 BC. And this is reconstruction of the Piedras Negras site, alright, and Usumacinta River. Alright, this is a Mayan temple. Look at how it's extensive, how massive this is, alright? It says, in beliefs or recognize that the Olmecs were building pyramids and great stone megaliths for thousands of years before the classic Maya built their cities. Discovery after discovery has revealed that the accepted dates for civilization in the Americas are very wrong. Thank you, UB2 News and Tom Drop for showing us the false technology that we've been living. It says, at Chanchan in Peru, Chavin culture, instead of sudden emergence, displays a continual line of development of a naval culture that dates back over 8,000 years. Pedra Furada in Brazil is now known to have supported a diverse culture over 12,000 years ago. Monteverde in Chile is at least that old, and many have supported a navigational culture of 32,000 years ago. Without a doubt, civilizations in the Americas go back further than established states or Mesopotamia or Egypt. Again, without a doubt, we got it from Smithsonian.com, right, in popular archaeology. But Iversat, right, Atlantis in America, telling us, without a doubt, civilizations in the Americas go back further than established states or Mesopotamia or Egypt. 8,000-year-old mummies in Peru predate identical embalmed Egyptian mummies by 3,000 years. And we got that, right? The Chinchorro mummies in Chile and Peru. One of them goes back almost up to, I believe, 9,000 years ago. We just got right here 8,000 years ago, right? Residue of Holy American tobacco and cocaine recently discovered in 5,000-year-old mummies in Egypt and in the Sudan established evidence of contact between the Old and New Worlds thousands of years before Christ. Again, the appearance of a genetically American continent aged at 10,000 years ago and evidence of coconut, sweet potatoes, and the American parrot in the Pacific and in Asia 12,000 years ago all confirm a repeated worldwide contact of cultures that could only have been accomplished by navigation. The great megalithic structures of the Americas, the spheres of Costa Rica, the Great Wall of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, Sacsayhuaman Fortress. Saw my City of David video. Is this the City of David, the Citadel, the Fortress, Sacsayhuaman?
Attention anyone interested in a money-making career in fitness as a personal trainer. There is a massive need right now for at-home and online personal trainers. The IS...
Says here, The Maya Flood Myth and the Decapitation of the Cosmic Caimán by Eric Velázquez Garcia, Instituto de Investigaciones Estéticas, UNAM, or the University of Americas, I believe. It says here, the flooding of water. Among the Maya groups that left behind written testimonies during the post-classic and colonial periods, we find different accounts that revolve around the existence of a flood that wiped out the previous world and allowed for the creation of a new cosmological order. With the Quiche, for instance, this flooding was produced by Uk Uk, Yak Kayak, heart of the sky, or Huracan, mother and father of the gods. In order to annihilate the race of the men of wood, Bartolomé de las Casas also mentions that amongst the Quechua people from Verapaz, there was news about a flood and the end of the world, and they called it Butik, which means deluge of many waters, and also judgment. And so they believe that another Butik is yet to come, which is another flood and judgment, not of water, but of fire, which they say has to be the end of the world, in which all creatures will fight each other. You hear that? A similar passage is contained in the Relación de la Ciudad de Mérida and de la Garza, which confirms the belief in successive floods of water and fire, as well as a caiman that symbolizes the flooding and the earth. They had also news about the fall of Lucifer and the flood, and that the world shall end by fire, and in order to signify this, they performed a ceremony where they painted a caiman that meant the deluge and the earth, upon which caiman they made a great pile of wood and put it on fire. And after it was turned into live coal, they flattened it, and the main priest passed barefooted over the live coal without being burned. All right, just like the Hindus or some people in the other side of the world do today. And after him, everybody else who wished also passed understanding by this that it was the fire that shall finish them all. For the Yucatec Maya, the flooding was caused by Muping Ka, he who is buried underneath the earth, and by the Bolontiku, the 9 gods. The lurid forces that outraged the 13 gods of heaven and robbed them of their insignia. As a consequence of this, the sky fell, and according to Rwanda, the 4 Baka escaped the destruction. Maybe because of this, the word Baka is written on page 74 of the Dressing Codex, a passage traditionally interpreted as the destruction of the world caused by a flood. Alright, that's figure 9. And this is figure 9, what they're talking about right here in the Dressing Codex. Alright, you see, this is the torrent of water that's falling. You see, and that's going to cause the flood. The torrent of water falling. In this scene, we observe that the old goddess Ochaktel is pouring out the destructive waters that she carries in a jar, while a black painted god, alright, a black painted god, here we go, black painted god holds his weapons over the surface of the earth while wielding a long staff. And he has a staff, right, a black god with a staff, and he has a weapon over the surface of the earth. Streams of water descend from the jaws of a pluvian caiman and from a pair of cliffs that it carries below its body. According to Carl Tabi, the expression black sky and black earth that appear in this scene are a possible reference to the destruction of the world. In Michael Cole's opinion, this topic was picked up on page 32 of the Madrid Codex, where another black deity, which has been identified as Zimmerman's God Z, alright, God Z, that's what they call him, another black deity. Alright, it says Hernandez and Victor appears holding his weapon under a sky band from which rain is pouring. We notice that the god grabs a spear, 2 darts, a shield, and a spear thrower, a snake which probably represents lightning. Miller and Tommy seems to tear a hole in the celestial band. As on Dressing Codex page 74, we find eclipse signs that hang from the band. Underneath the scene in the Madrid, there is an image of the goddess Chachel, between whose open legs the stream of water is pouring, which corresponds perhaps to the destructive liquid that the goddess pours on Dressing page 74 of the Arsa. Alright, so this is what they were talking about, the black deity, alright, holding the spear, right, and his weapon. Alright.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts in 10 minutes. Or you're cramming for an exam the night before, but can't bear to keep your eyes open to read one more textbook chapter. Or you're reviewing a dead legal document that would change your life forever. Or you're proofreading your thesis one last time before you submit it to make sure there aren't any errors. No matter what you have to read, we could all use a second pair of eyes to help us retain information and put our best foot forward. Enter Speechify, a reading assistant powered by artificial intelligence and deep learning, and designed consciously for students and working professionals who want to get more done. Speechify does the reading for you, so you can spend less energy reading and more energy comprehending. Choose your listening speed. Start at 230 words per minute and build to 500 words per minute, which is 2.5 times faster than most people read. Choose from a range of incredible voices that use human inflection so you can stay engaged without getting tired. Don't have enough time to finish? Take your reading on the go with a single click. Best of all, Speechify is free. Click on the button to download now.
Watch your fire!
Alright. Ready to go, Michael Walker? Ready to go. And Michelle. Good for it. Alright, so let's say we got one round. Full throttle, let's go for it. And as we get closer, we'll just check up on the throttle, make sure we're clear on it.
Scream it down!
Right, you're good. Go, good, go. Full throttle on up. Get back into it down. Get up, let's be smooth at it. Go right, lean over, keep it getting the side. Keep it going, keep it going. Do it all right. Ease on real quick. Right side, right down. All right, yep. Now, tighter, get on the curve, throttle out. Off the gas, go in, tighter, tighter, move to the gas, accelerate. Off the gas, turn it in tight, like throttle, full throttle up. Keep going, you turn, go, keep going, keep going. Off the gas, turn, go. Keep going, and quick, my heart.
Alright, so in this book, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly. Now we're in chapter 5, right? Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly. Now it says here, the Deluge Legends of America. It is a very remarkable fact, says Alfred Maury, that we find in America traditions of the deluge coming infinitely nearer to that of the Bible and the Chaldean religion and among any people of the old world. Alright? So the traditions they found in America resemble so much more the story of the people of the old world than any other, mythology they find all over the world. In America, right? We know the deluge, as Cosmos said, happened in the West, in America. So of course they would have the closest, nearest, because this is the original story before it was hijacked and made into the Bible, right? And we continue in the book. Now it says, the most important among the American traditions are the Mexican, for they appear to have been definitely fixed by symbolic and mnemonic paintings before any contact with Europeans. According to these documents, the Noah of the Mexican cataclysm was Coxcox, called by certain peoples Teocipactli or Tespi. He had saved himself together with his wife Xochiquetzal in a bark, or according to other traditions, on a raft made of cypress wood. Cypress, cedar wood, the strongest wood.
We got a creep!
Alright. Cypressus disticha. Paintings recounting the deluge of Coxcox have been discovered among the Aztecs, Mixtecs, Zapotecs, Tlaxcaltecs, and Michoacaneses. Alright, so they have the codices with this story of Coxcox. The tradition of the latter is still more strikingly in conformity with the story as we have it in Genesis and in Chaldean sources. Alright, so tells how Pepsi embarked in a spacious vessel with his wife, his children, and several animals and grain whose preservation was essential to the subsistence of the human race. And the great god Tezcatlipoca decreed that the water should retire. Tezpi sent a vulture from the bark. The bird feeding on the carcasses with which the earth was laden did not return. Tezpi sent out other birds, of which the hummingbird only came back with a leafy branch in its beak. Then Tezpi, seeing that the country began to vegetate, left his bark on the mountain of Colhuacan. The document, however, that gives the most valuable information says Leonard Mornak. As to the cosmogony of the Mexican is the one known as Codex Vaticanus, from the library where it is preserved. It consists of 4 symbolic pictures representing the 4 ages of the world, preceding the actual one. They were copied at Cholula from a manuscript anterior to the conquest and accompanied by the explanatory commentary of Pedro de los Rios, who in 1566, less than 50 years after the arrival of Cortez, devoted himself to the research of indigenous traditions as being necessary to his missionary work. Alright, so continuing the book Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, it says that the name of the hero of the Aztec story, Nata, pronounced with the broad sound of ah, is not far from the name of Noah or Noé. The deluge of Genesis is a Phoenician, Semitic, or Shemitic
or Hebraic legend. And yet, strange to say, the name of Noah, which occurs in it, bears no appropriate meaning in those tongues, but is derived from Aryan sources. Its fundamental root is Na, to which in all the Aryan languages is attached to the meaning of water, to flow. Niampha, named Tunus, water deities. We find the root Na repeated in the name of this Central American Noah, Nata, and probably in the word Nahualt, the age of water. But still more striking analogies exist between the Chaldean legend and the story of the deluge as told in the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Central Americans. Then the waters were agitated by the will of the heart of heaven, Huracan, and a great inundation came upon the heads of these creatures. They were engulfed, and a resinous thickness descended from heaven. The face of the earth was obscured, and a heavy darkening rain commenced. Rain by day and rain by night. There was heard a great noise above their heads as if produced by fire. Then were men seen running, pushing each other, filled with despair. They wished to climb upon their houses, and the houses, tumbling down, fell to the ground. They wished to climb upon the trees, and the trees shook them off. They wished to enter into the grottos, or caves, and the grottos closed themselves before them. Water and fire contributed to the universal ruin at the time of the last great cataclysm, which preceded the fourth creation. Right, again, that was from the Popol Vuh. Recommend you reading the Popol Vuh. I told you, this is where most of the stories of the Old Testament or Genesis you will find, right here in the Popol Vuh.
These were all just sand and mosquitoes. Now it's the name of our life.
It's time to kill. What do you want? I got half of the rest. No, you're one of mine. I want Big Nine gone. Ben is a shark, and a shark. As if you've forgotten who you about disrespect. This is your ugly. So we're at all.
I can make an indoorsy person outdoorsy.
I can turn anyone into a beach bum.
I make memories for people I don't even know yet.
I am a verbal host.
So just to correlate, just to show you it's not just in this antediluvian Atlantis book. This is actual real history. We find the same story in the writings of Lord Kingsborough here in the Antiquities of Mexico. Again, this is a comprising facsimiles of ancient Mexican paintings and hieroglyphics. The first 4 volumes are just the codices and the drawings of the structures, and from volume 5 to 9 is the explanation of the codices, and volume 6, this is where we are now. It's translated mostly all in English. Alright, so we're going to go to a part of this volume 6 where they're talking about Noah. So on page 117, it says here the explanation of plate 5, Quetzalcoatl, right? After the deluge, the custom of sacrificing commenced. It says here, according to scripture, therefore, sacrifices commenced immediately after the deluge, but sin, according to the notions of the Mexicans, commenced much earlier, for they believed that sin began with time. Noah was called by the Mexicans Petacatl and Zipaquetona. They said that he invented the art of making wine, which is generally agreed was not known before the deluge, since the patriarchs Noah and Lot were ignorant of its effects, and that he was preserved with 6 others in an ahuehuete, or ark of fur, which is one less than Moses says were saved from the deluge, since 8 persons entered the ark, and that shortly afterwards his descendants built the Tower of Tulan in Cholula. Remember Cholula, part 3 of this series? Tower of Babel, Cholula, and the legends here was built by giants, right? Partly from curiosity to see what was going on in heaven, and partly from fear of another deluge. So in another page of this book it says Petacatl was the Noah of the New World. He is called by some writers Coxcos, as well as Zipaquetona. Coxcos was the name likewise of the king called Huacan, who states the Mexicans sought an asylum after their long peregrinations. Again, this was Antiquities of Mexico by Lord Kingsborough. You can find all these codices in all these prestige libraries.
An Inquiry into the Origin of the Antiquities of America by John Delafield Jr., with an appendix containing notes and a view of the causes of the superiority of the men of the northern over those of the southern hemisphere by James Lackey, M.D. This is from 1839. We're in a part of the book here where it's explaining a codex for hieroglyphic, and it's talking about the cycles, the different cycles of that supposedly man had gone through. And in the fourth cycle, it says here, it lasted 4,008 years. Right, so 10 times 400 plus 8 equals 4,008, the termination of which was a great inundation. So at this, I guess, this life cycle ended with a flood, which destroyed all mankind. Men were transformed into fish, except one man and one woman who saved themselves in the trunk of an ahuehuete, or deciduous cypress. Cypress, the teacher, right? A cider tree, cider cedars. The drawing represents the goddess of water. And Noah and his wife, Cox, and Xochiquetzal, seated on the trunk of a tree, covered with leaves, and floated amidst the waters. The detached hieroglyphics on the left hand of these pictures are the astronomical, or rather zodiacal symbols denoting the day in which each catastrophe is believed to have occurred. All right, just give examples. All right, here, before I name the book, just a little illustration of Lake of Texcoco, right, where Tenochtitlan was. See, it was like an island, like a lake, protected, right, surrounded by water, city in a lake. All right, and this book is the history of Mexico, collected from Spanish and Mexican historians, from manuscripts and ancient paintings of the Indians, illustrated by charts and other copper plates, to which are added critical dissertations on the land and animals and inhabitants of Mexico by Adi Di Francesco Saverio Claviguero. All right, this is like primary sources from. It says here the Mexicans used to call Noah Coxcox and Teocipatli. All right, another name Teocipatli, and the Michoacanese Tespi. They used to say that there was once a great deluge, and that Tespi, in order to save himself from being drowned, embarked in a ship formed like an ark, with his wife, his children, and many different animals, and several seeds of fruits, and that of the water abated. He sent out that bird which bears the name of Aura, which remained eaten dead bodies, and then sent out another bird, who did not return either, except that little bird, the flower sucker, which was much prized by them on account of the variety of the colors of its feathers, that brought a small branch with it, and from this family they all believe they drew their origin. If therefore we refer to the sacred writings or the traditions of those Americans, we must seek for the peoplers of America among the descendants of Noah. All right? So continuing in the book Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly. In regards to the tribes of the Great Lakes, he says, in former times, the father of the Indian tribes dwelt toward the rising sun, having been warned in a dream that a deluge was coming upon the earth. He built a raft on which he saved himself, with his family. He built a raft on which he saved himself with his family and all the animals. He floated thus for several months. The animals, who at that time spoke loudly, complained and murmured against him. At last a new earth appeared on which he landed with all the animals, who from that time lost the power of speech, as a punishment for their murmurs against their deliverer, or savior, right? Deliverer, Meshach. According to Father Charlevoix, the tribes of Canada and the valley of the Mississippi relate in their root legends that all mankind was destroyed by a flood, and that the good spirit who repeopled the earth had changed animals into men. It is to J.S. Hall we owe our acquaintance with the version of the Chippeways, full of grotesque and perplexing touches, in which the man saved from deluge is called Menaboshu. To know if the earth be drying, he sends a bird, all right, just like in the Bible, right? The diver out of his bark, then becomes the restorer of the human race and the founder of existent society.
because here among the Iroquois there is a tradition that the sea and water is infringed upon the land, so that all human life was destroyed. The Chickasaws assert that the world was once destroyed by water, but that one family was saved and two animals of every kind. The Sioux say there was a time when there was no dry land and all men had disappeared from existence. The Nicaraguans believe that ages ago the world was destroyed by a flood in which the most part of mankind perished. Afterwards, the Opis or gods restored the earth as at the beginning. But while the ashes walked from their natural power, have a legend that the first days of the world were happy and peaceful days. Then came a great flood, from which Montezuma and the Coyote alone escaped. Montezuma began the very wicked and attempted to build a house that would reach to heaven, but the Great Spirit destroyed it with thunderbolts, bankrupt native races, right? It says in 1810 the English fleet captured the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, owned by France, and among the many local trophies captured without a head and hands embedded in it. Alright, so they're saying that this was already cut. The French had this, right? Because this was a French owned island. So in 1910, the English took it from them. It was perfectly normal skeleton of a modern type and was discovered in a layer of limestone 1.6 kilometers long on the northeastern coast of the island. Alright, so here's again the image. Alright. Now, since before the British invasion, many skeletons of ancient animals and only one human skeleton were found in this place by the French. And the modern dating of this layer gives 28 million years. That is, this layer was formed 25 million years before the appearance of man as such. A plate with skeleton was brought to the British Museum in 1812, and the scientist Carl Koenig, alright, so now we get his name, Carl Koenig, who examined the skeleton 2 years later, immediately ran into the dating problems, confirming that it was a modern type skeleton, but honestly admitted that he did not know how old it was. So according to this website, it was brought to this scientist Carl Koenig in the British Museum. He said it was, yes, it is a modern human, but he could never admit to knowing the exact age of it, right? In those years, the study of the remains of ancient people was just beginning. For example, the first bones of Neanderthal man were found only in 1857. Therefore, the ancient skeleton, even with obscure dating, caused a lot of interest and became a permanent part of the museum's collection of natural history. Towards the end of the 19th century, this skeleton began to attract special attention of creationists, supporters of the divine theory of the origin of the world and man. According to them, undoubtedly a very ancient yet completely modern human skeleton pointed to the correctness of their beliefs and belonged to a woman who lived before the flood. We're talking about an antediluvian Atlantean website. Alright, so we got another source here. Google Books is actually a scan of the magazine New Scientist. This is from March 29th, 1984. The article in this magazine is called The Case of Miocene Man by Michael Hoggate and Alan Lewis, Go Ape Over British Creationism, it says. Now it says here, in 1983, a Mr. W.R. Cooper published an article in the Australian creationist journal Ex Nihilo. He claimed that a totally human fossil had been found in supposed 25-million-year-old lower Miocene deposits on the West Indian island of Guadeloupe. The specimen, which was presented to the British Museum in 1812, was, according to Cooper, hidden from the gaze of the public after the advent of Charles Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. Such a deliberate concealment of evidence, says Cooper, is a party in accord with the scientific integrity and objectivity of which evolutionists have hitherto boosted. In fact, it speaks of nothing but downright dishonesty. This conspiracy of silence, claims Cooper, was because the skeleton was positive proof of the biblical deluge, as it supposedly showed damage consistent with the catastrophic inundation, and as the true human fossil from the Miocene, it demolished the concept of the geological timescale and consequently all theories of human evolution. Alright, that's what he's saying. This Cooper guy saying, hey man, that debunked all your theories. And I'm at the Linda Hall Library. It says here, Science, Engineering, and Technology. So this is the picture or drawing of the, I guess, the limestone. Alright, it says, in the fine print here, it says the Guadalupe skeleton found on the Isle of Grande Terre in Guadeloupe, given to the British Museum engraved plate from Charles Koenig's article. in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society of London, 1814. All right, so we got a big lead right there. All right, so that's where that article is coming from, or the most scholarly one regarding its investigation, or officially what age it is, right? Limestone specimen was being brought by the guy we just got, Alexander Cochrane, presented to the British Museum the fossil, the human fossil that was brought from Guadeloupe, that was embedded in limestone, and the limestone is 28 million years old. All right, so so I found this other book during my research, and it says it's called The History of the Collections Contained in the Natural History Department of the British Museum, Volume 1. All right, this is from 1904. And it says on page 197 of this book, under the title where it says the Department of Geology, General Sketch, so the collection of fossils was originally assigned to the Comprehensive Department of Natural History, which remained undivided until 1837. Mr. Charles Koenig, who had been keeper since 1813, was relieved of the care of zoology and botany and became keeper of the newly formed Department of Geology and Mineralogy. Right? So Charles Koenig was there, confirmed, in 1813. The specimen should have arrived. Alright, we're on page 201 in this book, so the historical collections that were in the British Museum in 1813, noted here. A human skeleton in coral limestone. In coral limestone from Guadeloupe, West Indies, captured on the taking of the island from the French by Sir Alexander Cochrane, RN, was presented by the Lords of the Admiral. The specimen was described by Mr. Charles Koenig in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society of London, actually, in volume 104, in the year 1814, page 107. Alright, now, you know how long it took me to find this? So they have like numerous, so again, this was volume 104 that they got this report. So man, there's like 200 volumes of this. It was hard to find, but I did find it. So here it is right here, Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society of London for the year, it says 1814, and part 1 it says. Alright, so we're going to go all the way to 107, page 107, like they told us, right? Page 107. Alright, here we got it. It says on a fossil human skeleton from Guadeloupe by Charles Koenig, Esquire, in a letter addressed to the Right Honorable Sir Joseph Banks, read February 10, 1814. Alright, so let's get into this article that he wrote and what he has to say about the specimen that was sent to him by this British Navy Admiral Commander. It says the human skeleton embedded in limestone, lately brought from Guadeloupe by the Honorable Sir Alexander Cochrane and presented by the Admiralty to the British Museum, having excited the curiosity of the public, I do myself the honor of submitting to you a short account of the fossil remains.
if you ever wanted to know what $21,000 looks like in a single month, this is what it looks like.
Just got a knock at the door and got a package in the mail.
And I just got the cut.
That's my name, Matthew Stillman, right there. So
made $4,500 last week, my first week in the program.
So I just got the envelope. Has the envelope?
First video I've ever made. I'm just not comfortable making these videos, but I thought it was important to show everyone that our private activity does work because of its simplicity.
$7,000 in 1 week.
Coach Kevin, here it is. I'm going to open it up. I got the proof. I'm going to do a quick opening of this. Let's see what's we've got inside this thing.
These are the first checks, so we're super excited. This is a little bit sealed, so I'm going to open it up right in front of you. Okay.
Let's open this up.
So let me open this up.
Now guys, the craziest part about all this is that the only thing that I did was plug into the system, follow the instructions, and then literally get this cash sent directly.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Museum of Science. We are here to explore the wonders of the Maya. How exciting is that? Tonight is the first program in our series delving into the realm of the Maya. While we know so much about them, we've learned a lot. There's still so many holes in our knowledge, and the layers of insight keep being revealed to us through the work of scientists like our special guest tonight. It is work like his that is peeling away layers of mystery and deepening our understanding of just how sophisticated this culture was. In 2005, Bill Saturno made the discovery of a lifetime. When he dove out of the sweltering Guatemalan heat, he came upon the earliest known murals painted by the Maya. Scholars refer to the site as the Sistine Chapel of the pre-classic Maya era, and one of the most significant archaeological finds of that civilization as it was developing. Many of us fantasize about traveling the world and having adventures like Indiana Jones. Well, Bill Saturno is the real deal, so please join me in giving him a very warm welcome.
Focusing on the mansions and the Lambos, I was able to work from my laptop for a year in places like beachside cafes in Bali and tango cafes in Argentina, and even the Sahara Desert, no thanks to the gurus. See, It wasn't drop shipping that allowed me to make six figures for the first time in my entire adult life. Even though I used to be a pizza boy who thought $30,000 a year was amazing, it wasn't Amazon FBA that allowed me to make my first million and prove to my friends and family that I had what it took. And it sure as heck wasn't something as risky as cryptocurrency that allowed me to work in between scuba dives and the Great Barrier Reef. If you know about how gurus actually make money, one thing that creates more wealth than anything else. We're talking about the thing that allowed George to go from $0 to $9,000 a month in recurring income in just 3 weeks' time. The same thing that allowed Chad to go from a personal trainer to making $500,000 online. And the same thing that allowed Daniel to make his first $2,000 from the hospital. Without waiting for cheap products to ship from China, without investing tons of money to sell on Amazon, and without tons of money to invest in Bitcoin. This was all without any prior experience, without showing your face on camera, without any sort of following. If you and your house is done, you have to check out this anti-guru training. Because you see that guru that runs the Lambo and hits the curves, he might be selling you the fake lifestyle, but he's really making money with this one skill. The skill's so easy that if you know how to use it, you make it so you never have to work for a boss again, ever, in your whole life. Click to this ad now and learn how we make $9,000 a month with this anti-guru way to make money online. We helped 100 people go through this process just to prove that it works. And you would not believe the results everyday people are getting with it. I'm talking about people with full-time jobs, kids at home, and who have never made a dime on the internet. People who are not technical, people who live in the United States, in Sweden, and in Thailand. People who are just graduating high school, or who have kids who are graduating from college. And as long as you know this 3-step process, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do right now. All that matters is that you show up, take notes, and put this into practice while we're on the call together. We'll show you how to get your first paying client in as little as 3 days for as much as $3,000 per month, and how to keep getting paid month after month and add more clients to grow your business so you can make as much as you want. If you just have right now, before the gurus get mad that I'm trash talking, making me take it down. I'll see you inside.
Wow, yeah. Hey, much love and respect to everybody that's tuned in today. I'm excited about today because just wanted to go over some information that I've gone over in the past, which is very important. I still get a lot of new people. I still get a lot of people trying to explain to me where the name America comes from.
Check this out.
You know, talking about it's named after Europeans and all that stuff, and that we don't know the language and we're making up things. Alright, so first of all, shout out to Basil Breeze for some of the beats here for today. Thanks, brother. And thanks for everybody that tuned in. You know, again, we're gonna go over. We're gonna show undeniable proof, undisputed. It's undisputed. It's not even a topic in people's conversation. It's undisputed. That's why they don't even bring it up. They lied to us, telling us it was named after Vespucci. You know, you guys just automatically got to understand one thing. That's the last name, right? Vespucci. So why didn't we get named after Vespucci land, right? Why would he be named after his first name, Amerigo, which is, we're going to see today, really Albert. Amerigo is really Albert, all right? Albert has nothing to do with Maraka, all right? Let me get a one, make sure you guys can hear me. Get away from me! Okay. America's not named by no African or Africano, nothing. I hope you guys pay attention today. Again, if you come to give opinions and troll a little bit, you know, we just take, I just, you know, hype you because we're here to learn today. And, you know, look at primary sources, look at real history, look at real investigation, not just some made up opinions. You know, add in narratives, you know, your beliefs, you know, adding your beliefs and narratives to our history, our indigenous history. You know, that's got to stop. That's really got to stop, man. Because, you know, it's okay, you know, you have your fun, you know, yeah, Pan-Africans this all our lives, yeah, but no, credit is due, credit is due. Right, I'm going to show you today, again, a lot of you never seen these presentations I've done before, so we're going to break them down today, we're going to go over them, you know, I'm going to go over them with you. Alright. Get the video going. Alright. Yes, Shalom, Amaru Khans. Hope everyone is doing well. Much love and respect to the real ones out there, the Amaru Khans. Yes, that's what we're going to be discussing in this video, the name America, right? We're going to go into the true origin of this name. And I'm going to show you this is an indigenous name to America. Yes, America, or America. And this is not named after Vespucci, alright? This continent, this land is not named after Vespucci, alright? So enough with the lies. Alright, so let's begin right away. Hawaii. Alright, so before we begin the video and the topic, right, I just want to remind everybody who we're talking about when we're talking about this is an indigenous word. This is from indigenous people, this indigenous land here in America, America. Alright, so these are the people that we're talking about. We're talking about the Aborigines, right? The copper colored races of America, right? So just to have a reference, right? Seminoles, as you can see. Alright, West Indians, alright? Look at this, a Chippewa band. Seminole women. Alright, Wampanoag, this is Fred Thomas, this is White Cora Thomas. Alright, you can see how they depict America always. So-called Negro, right? So it's not just Africa, right? And that's parts from the Mipu, Pendleton, Oregon. Alright, we got American Indian and the white man. Look at the difference. Alright? Man, which Hakasa and his wife Apatuema, 1899. Alright, remember who they showing in these tobacco ads and then who they showing in these slave ads? It's the same people. It's American Indians, right? And we see the last so-called Wampanoag, they say it's the last one that was alive. Picture of her. Alright. This is Benaki Indian, an Abenaki Indian, a basket maker. This person has been identified as Caroline Tahama Masta, alright? And, you know, we already know what Walter Flecker did, right?
how you switch native people, colored, Negro, white, black, alright, how they reclassified your ancestors, and now they call you Negro, colored, African American, alright? But remember, this is the main thing we're going to be talking about in this video, alright? Because the Americans or the Amarukans, they're not African. As you can see in this map called Atlas Novus, see the Tabulae Geographicae, very famous depiction of the so-called regions and races of the earth, alright? And you see on the right side how it has the 4 different corners, right? And you can see America right here, top right, bottom right is Africa, you see like Asia, this side, the bottom left is Europe, alright? So this is a close-up of America. You see him pointing at America. You see, these are the Aboriginal people. This is how they depicted you in all the ancient old maps, all the depictions, most of them before the 1800s. Alright, because that was the truth. You are the Aboriginal, so-called African American. You are the indigenous person. You are the Amaru Khan. So that's what I want to show you about the word America. This is your land, this is your Amaru, your beloved land, Tamari, right? The land of the plum serpent, right? Ko, Amaru, the snake dynasty, Khan, and Naga. You are the Naga, right? You are the copper-colored races of American Aboriginal, alright? Big shout out, much love to Ab the Legend, been teaching everyone for years. Alright? Respect.
Can anyone hear me?
Long before Europeans began making maps of the New World, the Native Americans called their land Amaracapana, or Amaraca for short. Whereas the controversies concerning the discovery of America are well known. What is not well known is the controversy concerning the naming of America. In public school, we are earnestly taught that the Americas were named after Italian explorer and cartographer Amerigo Vespucci. The term America, we are told, is derived from the Latin version of Vespucci's first name, Americus. This fallacy was bolstered by one primary source, Waldseemüller's 1507 world map entitled Universalis Cosmographia, drafted by German cartographers Martin Waldseemüller and Matthias Ringmann. The map was the first to assign a name to the New World, America, which historians have proffered as proof that the continent was christened after Vespucci, since he held more firmly to the growing consensus that this was indeed a new world.
Alright, so we begin with the book, which is called... Alright. So I just wanted to say real quick before we get on with the sources, alright? So a lot of people got a lot of opinions in the chat, especially, some people want to add conjecture and their opinions, and with no sources, they just make up things. They just make up things like they're little kids, like it's a make-believe land, But we're going to show some real historical facts, all right? And thank you, moderators. Yeah, make sure to keep them in check because, if they interrupt and just adding conjecture and opinions and being disrespectful, trying to take out our history and add their little narrative, do your thing. All right, so Curimeo from 2-3 years ago is going to let you know what you haven't researched, all right?
Spanish and Portuguese South America during the colonial period by Robert Grant Watson, the editor of Murray's Handbook of Greece, 4th edition, and also author of a book called The History of Persia. So he's very...
Alright, so basically this is what we read actually about Benzoni and what he wrote was happening to the American indigenous population. Alright, we got that video yesterday. How they were being treated, how they were being sold for wine, how they were being, basically exterminated, abused, and overworked to the point that people were really literally dying just from the stress, from hunger, from overworking, and also they were, going after, these so-called rebels. They legally declared them rebels, and they went, after them, Alright, so again, we're not going to get this part right here. We're just going to go to the very next book to correlate, remember? And what we read yesterday, that Bensoni Regis Amara Kapana, as you can see on the screen right now. Kapana right here, Bensoni is the author whose original comes to the well-known story of Columbus. And yet he says that while at Amara Kapana, alright, we're going to get the whole history today of Amara Kapana. Alright, let's just get to the part. So again, get that video we dropped yesterday. Alright, we want to get to the next sources. Alright, there you go. Alright, and just real quick, so Charles V, right? Let's not forget Charles V and who were the Inca, the Amarus, right? Let's get this last part real quick.
Understand what he looked like? He was another brother, colored, so-called Negro. This is just another more on more war. Alright?
As you can see, that's what I'm talking about. This is actual real painting of Charles V and Atahualpa, the last Inca king, Atahualpa, who was unfortunately murdered by the same regiment, you know. And as you can see, they're basically almost the same complexion. This is in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru. They have this painting hanging. It's an Inca emperor's king list and the first European Inca emperor, Charles V, or Carlos Quinto. Alright, Carlos Quinto.
Experience iconic luxury in a Cadillac SUV, like the XT6, an IIHS top safety pick with seating for up to 7 passengers, or the XT5, with over 20 available safety and driver assistance features. Your Cadillac SUV experience awaits.
In short, there seems to be very little room to doubt that the world has been misled through the complimentary notice of the Florentine bishop who claimed the New World was named after Vespucci. What many American historians fail to mention or realize is that Native Americans have always had their own name for the New World. Historian Alec Locker elucidates. Children in America are taught that America came from Amerigo Vespucci, the Florentine mariner. Actually, the best evidence dating back to the earliest Spanish documents following Christopher Columbus shows that part of South America, from Venezuela to Peru, was called Amaraca by the Indians of that region. At least that is what the Spaniards understood. Various spellings of Amaraca occur in Spanish documents, beginning with the visit to that land by Alonso de Ojeda, with whom Vespucci sailed in 1499.
Alright, so we're in the book right now called Personal Narrative of Travels to the Equinoctial Regions of America. Alright? During the years 1799 and 1804. It says by Alexander von Humboldt and Amy von Juan. Alright? If you don't know, well, if you have been following me, you know who Alexander von Humboldt is. A very renowned primary source, a very basically admired so-called scholar, right, from those times, right there that you see those years. And he was actually invited to many historical societies. Alright, we're on page 176 of this book, and it says here, Humboldt says, it is distressing to think that even at this day, there exists European colonists in the West Indies, who mark their slaves with a hot iron to know them again if they escape. Alright, weren't we just reading about this? Alright, Charles V marking his slaves with the Indians, right? The Indians with a hot iron. So who are we talking about still here? The 1700s. Alright? This is the treatment bestowed on those who save other men, the labor of sowing, tilling, and reaping. Alright, so you see this little cross here? Let's go to that little footnote at the bottom real quick. Alright, it says, see the little cross? Alright, it says La Brugere Caracteres. Alright, chapters 11, something, I guess is from a book, page 300. It says, I will here cite a passage strongly characteristic of Le Bruyere's benevolent feeling for his fellow creatures. It says, so he's quoting this guy, La Bruyere, from 1765. It says, we find under the torrid zone certain wild animals, male and female, scattered through the country, black, livid, and all over scorched by the sun, bent to the earth, which they dig and turn up with invisible perseverance. They have something like an articulate utterance, and when they stand up on their feet, they exhibit a human face, and in fact, these creatures are men. Alright, so you hear what this racist French, I guess he's French dude, is how he's describing the indigenous aboriginals of South America and West Indies. Remember, he's talking about how they mark, put hot irons on these people. And he's explaining why, and he's showing you why this dude is a racist. He doesn't care. He sees them like animals. He's giving you an example of what he said, and I hope you saw what he said about how they look. Alright, he said they're what? Black, livid, and all over scorched by the sun. He's talking about American Indians, so-called Negro, right? We're not talking about Africans in anywhere here. Alright, so let's go back up real quick. Alright, see where we were. Now it says, in 1800, the number of slaves did not exceed 6,000 in the two provinces of Cumana and Barcelona, talking about Indians, when at the same period the whole population was estimated at 110,000 inhabitants. The trade in African slaves, which the laws of the Spanish have never favored, is almost as nothing. Alright, listen to this. As nothing on these coasts where the trade in American slaves was carried on in the 16th century for desolating activity. Alright? Let me put that in a different word. He's telling you the trade in African slaves, right? Which the laws of the Spanish have never favored. They didn't really care to or really like to go grab Africans, really. It doesn't compare, it says. It's almost as nothing as what happened on these coasts. There's nothing on these coasts where the trade in American slaves, we're talking indigenous people, was carried on in the 16th century, what, 1500s, way before the so-called slave trade, right? Desolating activity, with desolating activity. Jesus says, Makarapan, anciently called Amaracapana. What? Makarapan, which was anciently called Amaracapana. It wasn't named by the Europeans or Spaniards. Alright, this place, which we know as Macarapan, was anciently called America, Amaracapana. You understand? Amaracapana. Again, Macarapan, anciently called Amaracapana. Cumana, Araya, and particularly New Cadiz. Alright, so which was also known as Amaracapana or Cumana. If you see all these in the maps, Araya is in the same place.
Alright, so I just wanted to add to what Primero back then is saying is yesterday we talked about New Cadiz in the video before that, the Pearl one. New Cadiz was established by Columbus' son. You know, that was one of his settlements. He named it New Cadiz. Cadiz was a Moorish town, you know. And so yeah, remember that Columbus and these people were Sephardic crypto-Jews, you know, Muslim Moors, a lot of them too. Alright? So remember, we already know the history about this area. Bagua, Margarita Island. Remember, Margarita means pearl in Old Persian. Margarita means pearl in Old Persian. Alright? So look at, this is an old map showing you Margarita was already there. You know, all these names, Amaracapana, Amaraca, we're gonna get so, you know, today. You guys can see how much evidence there is. Alright, so we're just starting. Let's go. Orphan Cadiz. It's built on the inlet of Cubagua. Might then be considered as commercial establishment for facilitating the slave trade. What slave trade? The Indian slave trade. Girolamo Bezzoni of Milan, who at the age of 22 visited Terra Firme, or South America, right, took part in some expeditions in 1542 to the coast of Bordones, Cariaco, and Paraya to carry out the unfortunate natives, alright, natives. Alright, so now we're to the book presented, says here, to the University of Toronto Library, alright, by the Ontario Legislative Library.
and the book is called Discovery of the Origin of the Name of America by Thomas de St. Bris, entered according to the Act of Congress in the year of 1888 by Thomas St. Bris in the office of the Librarian of Congress at Washington. Write a translation first, alright? And we're in the introduction and it says, the object of this abridged popular edition is to present in a brief, clear, and simple style our discovery of the origin of the name of America, which came as unexpectedly as that of Columbus, while we were collecting from the old works of the Spanish historians. So while they were doing research in the real Spanish records, they were able to determine what was the origin of the name of America, right? The customs and histories of the Americans called Indians. Alright, we're just talking about the cover-colored races, Americans, right? Remember? Cover-colored tribes of America, Aborigines, which they called Indians by mistake, in order to show their connection with Egypt. Whoa! So the Aborigines of America and their connection with Egypt, alright? Where's the true ancient Egypt? Alright, we're gonna see the real name of ancient Egypt, what that name was. Tameri, Tamer. Alright, of which alright, so real quick, their connection with Egypt, right? Since more correlation, we already know was the true ancient Egypt, I'm talking about Egypt is a Greek word, Temple of Ptah. It's not a specific location or landmass, and it never was. Alright, that would be conjecture. Alright, so again, this is not me saying there's a connection with ancient Egypt here. Alright, let's keep going. Preliminary sketch was published in 1882, the connection, alright? We have attached a map to be kept in view while reading so that a perfect idea may be obtained of the places named by Columbus and of the geography of the age of America.
Everybody, check this out.
Asia is placed in the position given to it by the first standard map of the world, on which the western hemisphere appears, and the Atlantic coast representing the early discoveries and settlements of this continent is taken from the first atlas.
Everybody, check
the name
this out.
of America is applied to its southern division, to which we have added the information obtained from a local chart showing the coast of America, the coast of America, 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 and the kingdom of Kundi, America, the kingdom of Kundi, America. You hear all this? Alright? University of Toronto. Alright?
Hey, look at this.
The coast of America. Alright? It was already here, this name. America.
Yo, Angel.
While the cities on the Pacific
Everybody, check this out.
represent the extent of the kingdom of America, America, and the period of its conquest by Spain. Instead of referring to the numerous Spanish authors which we have consulted in order to show the importance of this empire, so they must do this research, and they're not just referencing one person. They're telling you straight up right now, right, that they went to numerous Spanish authors which have consulted in order to show the importance of this empire, the kingdom of America. Alright? The kingdom of the Amara, Amaru, Amarakan, Amarukan. The kingdom of the Amarukan. Alright? Which only bears indirectly on our subject. We have referred our readers to the most interesting works, where these scattered histories may be found collected. We speak of the well-known flashback history of the continent of Peru, a great nation, got that history, of which our notes only give the passing outline. We use the word king in its general sense instead of the native name of king, which has similar meaning, referring to exclude foreign words, which mystify history, when its idea can be conveyed in our own. The kings of America, or America, the kings of America, or America, like the kings of England, Japan, were the temporal and spiritual chiefs of their dominions. Nearly all the works we have examined are to be found at the Astor Library, which, with a valuable number of the American Geographical Society maps and atlases, have been the principal means of throwing light on this subject of national interest. Alright, here in this scholarly work, we're getting maps from the American Geographical Society. Alright, they would correlate all what they're saying. But the king of Amaraca or America, where Vespucci and Columbus landed, and that's why they went back with the stories of Amaraca, the kingdoms of Amaraca, Alright? Alright, so the king says the following of the principal authorities which have been consulted in this work. Alright, so it gives all the references they're using from this article or book they wrote with Adam and Eve, alright? Six languages of gas bag, coming in! Media, alright, and so on and so on. Close it down. And take a look at all the sources, verify for yourself, alright? So many, I'm not gonna name them. Look at this. Yeah, there's a lot of sources, yo. So yeah, this is what the people who are practicing cognitive dissonance, don't want to look at. They tell them, well, we don't go off those sources, we don't go off those sources. We got our own scholars, and it's not the white man, and So I just want to say, truth has no color, right? So what sources are you using then? Because if you're not really using primary historical references or sources, a lot of these people don't just have agendas, They're just writing what they see. A lot of these books, you've never even read. You've never researched. So you don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, Camille, show them all those sources. That's in this book alone. This one little book alone for you to read it.
Drop that screamer!
A lot of these books actually have Herrera and have that in Spanish. Alright, how old history is the Peru? Alright, we got all these. Alright, so check it out.
Friendly down over here!
Alright, so now we're in this book called Watson's Jeffersonian Magazine, right? 1911, says here, look, 10 cents profit, that's all it years. It says the only magazine that stands for original democratic principles. Again, Watson's Magazine, this is volume 13, number 5, alright? Alright, so we're page 406 of this magazine, and it says The Name of America by Alexander Del Mar. Alright, let's remember. Alright, this is anybody writing these things, right? It says that the American continent derives its name from the American geographer Amerigo Vespucci, and that thereby an injustice because of Columbus is an expression which still maintains a firm hold on the popular mind. Yet many proofs have been offered that before Columbus landed, listen to this, alright, many proofs exist, right, that before Columbus landed, right, the name America was found scattered over the southern continent, the Caribbean Sea to the Pacific Ocean, and from the Maracaibo Coast and Amaracapana Coast, the Amaracapana Coast, Amaru coast near the Orinoco Island to the mountainous regions of Cajamarca around Bogota, Colombia, and over the heights of the Andes as far to the south as Peru, right? So they use that word also in Peru, right? We know that, Amaru, right? Amaru. Ex-President Harrison added his influence to the popular impression with the remark that a continent should have been named Columbus, thereby implying that it was in fact named for Vespucci. The only evidence to sustain this assumption is the letter of a Florentine bishop, in which he writes rather boastfully, and well may our new world be named America, since its discovery was due to our eminent countryman Amerigo Vespucci, etc. On the other hand, the proofs that the country bore a title much nearer to America than Amerigo may be summarized in the following citation. Giro Lemo Bezzoni, a Milanese, in his Historia della Mondo Novo, published at Lima, 1565, says, page 7 of the translation, the governor, shortly after left Cumana, right? Remember Cumana, just another name for Amaracapana, right? With all his company and coasting westward, went to Amaracapana. He went to where? Amaracapana. This was a town of about 40 houses, and 400 Spaniards resided there constantly, who annually elected a captain. Alright? Alright, so before we proceed, I just want to go verify that, alright? So let's go to the actual book written by Guido Lemo Benson. Alright? So again, it's La Historia del Mundo Nuevo, or History of the New World by Guido Lemo Benson. Alright? Okay, so the date is 65. Alright, let's go to the page. Alright, so we're in page 6 of this book. Alright, so right here. Alright, so this page 6, you see the word right here, Amara Capana. Alright, Italian, verified right now. Screenshot, audio, alright, go back. Alright, verified the word. Alright, humble and related to the story. The average personal observation. Chiefly in South America, 1799 to 1804. Jeff got that right. He went to school. The first settlement of the Spaniards was named as Amaracapana. The coast between the Cape Maria de la Vela. Here under the name of Amaracapana is without Japan. Alright, without Japan. Venezuela. The voyage is a Columbus. Right, because Herrera in his history of the West Indies married Ojeda in 1499. Amerigo Vespucci, compromised by the French, said finally he arrived at a port where they saw a village of store called Maracaibo. By the natives, it had 26 large houses, well shaped, built on pillars or supports with swinging bridges leading from one to another. And as this looked like Venice,
to the bitch.
That's what they say to get the name Venezuela, or Venice, which was subsequently adopted by the Republic of Venezuela. Alright, so real quick, I hope you guys are listening. So Venezuela, named after Venice. Where was the real Venice then, actually? Really? That's what you're gonna tell us? So they named Venezuela after Venice, right? It looked like Venice, like rivers, people on boats and stuff. That sounds beautiful, right? Also, I just want to point out, Vespucci, right, landed in a town, landed in a place, an indigenous place called Amaracapana. He landed there. It was already there before he got there. So how did he name it? We're going to get to who Amerigo Vespucci really was and what his real name was. We're going to get to that, all right, today. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Let's keep going. Simple sentence is conclusive proof that at the time Vespucci made his first landing in the Western continent, the port he stopped at was called Amaracaibo. Amaracaibo, or America Land. Alright, Amaracaibo or America Land. It was called America Land. But Vespucci landed, it wasn't named after him. It was already called that. Alright? Continue, it says, Sir Walter Raleigh reached the same region in 1595. You know Walter Raleigh, right? The famous slavers. Alright? And bro. And let me just add one of the most famous slavers, yeah, and it's actually De La Raleigh. Yeah, he was a crypto Jew. We got that drop in my Sephardic videos. If you guys haven't checked that out, yeah, Walter Raleigh, Francis Drake, these were all people of color. Let's go. As the beautiful valley of America. As he arrived in this region of South America, Walter Raleigh called it the beautiful valley of America. So Walter, also writing in 1596, described one of the
two ways? If so, swipe left to start your new life as a computer science professional.
Women involuntarily practice polygamy every day, B. You know what I'm saying? When women share the same baby daddy, that's polygamy. You know, it's women out here where they know that they may have another woman. That's polygamy. You know, you gotta pay attention to nature. There's a reason why a woman can only be pregnant by one man at a time, but a man can have multiple women pregnant at one time. There's a reason why there are many married men that struggle every day to remain with one woman because it's going against, it's going against what's technically natural to him. To have more than one wife was technically embedded in his DNA. So my thing is, as opposed to just having baby daddies and baby mamas, why not just keep it real and, be adults and all work together and as women be taken care of? Who has conditioned you to have an issue with that? It's the way of your ancestors. And it's not to be confused that the purpose of polygamy was for sexual exploitation purposes. The purpose was so that every woman had a husband, so that every child had a father, so that no woman was responsible for running an entire household on her own. The concept of your ancestors was all about nation building, survival, what makes sense according to nature. That foo-foo, fee-fee, Prince Charming, my husband sweep me off my feet type of deal is a fairy tale. And it basically means that, you might have a husband, but you'll have your sisters that won't. We've been conditioned to be against something that we shouldn't be. Women involuntarily practice polygamy every day. You know what I'm saying? When women share the women involuntarily practice polygamy every day, B. You know what I'm saying? When women share the same baby daddy, women involuntarily practice polygamy every same baby daddy, that's polygamy. It's women out here where they know that they may have another woman. That's polygamy. You don't get upset with it, you don't react to it. The best thing that you could ever do for an individual that's seeking that type of attention from you is street and ignore. It's ignore. And it's going to be extremely hard. Ready to stay focused, sister? You're about to be.
Major new investigation reveals how hundreds of powerful people, including current and former world leaders, hide gigantic sums of money to avoid paying taxes. The Pandora Papers report, led by multiple news organizations and the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, identifies more than 330 politicians and billionaires using offshore tax havens to shield money and assets like yachts, artwork, also shell companies that buy and sell real estate. The International Monetary Fund says that these kinds of tax schemes keep up to $600 billion a year in revenue from governments. That's money that should be easing the burden of taxes on the general public. Now, historically, countries like the Bahamas and the British Virgin Islands have been used for these purposes, but that's changing. Now places like South Dakota and Nevada are helping the rich shield their money by passing lenient laws, promising those people secrecy. The report says that assets in South Dakota-based trusts have quadrupled in the past decade to $360 billion.
You're about to be. I don't know too much about this story because I try to stay out the way, stay out the news, but I do keep my eye open every now and then when something catches my eye. And this, I want to give a moment of silence for the world right here. The reason why I want to speak on this and share light on this is also, you know, aiding, bringing awareness to more of outrageous, crazy things that are happening to black men across this country, maybe even in the world. I can only speak on what I deal with in this country. So one thing I can't understand is my people, and I'm talking to my people directly right now. Now tell me this, do y'all not understand we are at war? Are you waiting on somebody to tell you that we're at war for you to understand that what you possess, your melanin, everything about you is what other people want?
Tamara, Tamara, right? Tamara. Who did Judah marry? Tamara. Judah married Tamara, right? Tamari, the Egyptian, right? Alright, so I see a lot of people in the chat talking about, vaccines and all that. So, we don't want to get shut down. We're here to learn. We know what's going on in the world. We hit. If you're here to troll and distract people, I'm just gonna hide you. So try to change the topic. I don't mind discussing, but you guys are going somewhere else with it. And that's just going to create people that like arguing stuff, So, stay on topic. Or we just, what is your point of being here if you're going to talk about something else? Why are you here? Are you here to troll? Alright, so yeah, make sure to just hide them. Don't just hide them on. They continually just talk about off-topic stuff and things that we already hip to, like we hip to that, right? We're here to learn things that you don't know. You don't know this history, so pay attention.
Citations may be added the probability that had there been any intention to name the country after a species. Can't serve the same God as our oppressors and our enemies. Y'all gotta stop believing we ain't got oppressors. We ain't got enemies. There's a nation of people that has captivated us, completely destroyed our understanding of who we are, completely took us away from our land. So when you get that understanding in your mind, you finally understand who we are as a people. Wake up, Israel. Come back home to your nationality. We are the Israelites. Shalom, Israel. Shalom to those that don't know the truth. Shalom to those that do know the truth. So I've been pondering a question in my head. Are our people going to realize we can't serve the same God as our oppressors and our enemies? Y'all gotta stop believing we ain't got oppressors and we ain't got enemies.
There seems to be a law for the evolution of consonant domains, the name of a divinity or a cause, locality, or clause, while the person or consonant consonant with the consonant of that domain spread gradually over the domain. Thus, Europa originally decimated its own village in Thessaly, but as related to the rest of the Bosphorus and the Hellespont, it must have been spoken by Asiatic neighbors, and in marriage facilitated by extended application. Asia indicated originally a very small part of what is now Asia Minor. Alright, so pay attention to this part. Is going to break down how, we got names of continents today, but they weren't always names of the whole continent. These names actually were small towns, small regions in the continent that eventually became known as the whole continent. You know, they're gonna talk about Asia and Africa. Pay attention to the African part because Africa, it was a Roman colony in Tunisia. It wasn't all, you know, continent, just like Asia. So, you know, listen to this part right here.
The dividing line. Africa meant originally only that small part of the continent lying next to Carthage, and with which the Romans came in contact. It was much less expanded than Libya. Egypt was the name by which the Greeks used a small seaport town near the mouth of the Nile, and bears no resemblance with the name of the Black country, in which the ancient Egyptians designated their own land. Alright, we're gonna get into this. Trust me. We're gonna get into the real ancient name of Egypt. Right here, they just dropped the news on us right here, right now. Alright? This word, this Greek word for Egypt, you know, does not mean the black Kemet, right? It's called black soil. It does not mean that. I'm telling you right now. Alright? It was a small port town on the Nile. But it tells you that just like the small town that the Spanish are captured in South America named America, the whole continent became America. Just like Europe, that told you was a small town as well. It became the whole continent. And Asia was a small part. It became the whole continent. It's like Africa, tells you right here. Alright, was only a small part of the continent lying around Carthage. Alright, was the whole continent didn't even exist. Right? The name China spread from a pretty mountainous region on the borders of India because it was there that Europeans first came into any considerable contact with the empire. And it was by European nations that the name came to be obtruded on a nation which knew itself only as the Middle Kingdom. This shows that it is by the spread of local names indigenous to a small region that large regions
Not
are
only that,
named.
they all originated in Europe.
Alright, so there's
I mean, gonorrhea came from cattle, syphilis came from cattle and sheep, chlamydia was said to come from amphibians, specifically frogs. Oh, and the only way to contract them was the only way to contract them. The same way they're contracted today. I mean, like, just look at that. Yeah. Today, the countries with the highest STD rates are all in Europe. And with them existing in every other country, were brought by the Europeans that landed on each continent. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I mean, why were you busy with animals? Easy, just... But did you know that all STDs were animal related? Not only that, they all originated in Europe. I mean, gonorrhea came from cattle. Syphilis came from cattle and sheep. Chlamydia was said to come from amphibians, specifically frogs. Oh, and the only way to contract them was the only way to contract them. The same way they're contracted today. I'm gonna let you sit with that. Yeah. Today, the countries with the highest STD rates are all in Europe. And with them existing in every other country, were brought by the Europeans that landed on each continent. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. No, I mean, why were you all busy with animals?
The greatest portion of the southern continent,
attracted to predominantly black men, who does her research and checks her own bias, who understands colorism.
Oh my god.
And understanding that a black man's pursuit of me 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with his actual level of mental attraction to me.
Stop. No strangers are mentally attracted to anyone. Like, when a man is attracted to a woman, we have physical parts that are attracted to your physical parts. And if we find you attractive, then it's gonna be like, oh, I'm trying to get active. It's no mental calculation or attraction that goes down when strangers meet each other. Like, I don't know you. How can I be mentally attracted? All I know is if I find your physical appearance appealing.
And the fact that he probably has some type of self-loathing going on.
So I can't be attracted to you unless I hate myself. Okay, like, you're cute, but then, like, I watched this video, cute.
It has left me widely feeling unappreciated.
Oppression Olympics, oh my god. Why is it always pretty-ass, light-skinned women talking about colorism? Like, that's like a white person complaining about systematic oppression. You are not the spokesperson for this issue. Like, the people complaining about this are supposed to be dark-skinned women talking about how they don't feel preferred. That would be completely justified. But you benefit from this. You have no business complaining about anything. Like, what are you even talking about? Oh no, I hate how everything is set up to benefit me. Like, bro, shut up.
Although light-skinned women and mixed women are celebrated, I understand that. Definitely understand my own privilege here. But I just know that it's not genuine. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean. Because again, men are not mentally attracted to women. Like, no man has came up to a woman because of what he thought she might be like, or what degrees she may have, or what job he saw her working at. He was physically attracted to her, so he wants her a part of his life. It's that simple. That's the only genuine attraction a stranger can have for you.
She's really creepy, predatory, very animalistic, like breeding.
This is where she ruins any point she was trying to make. Just watch.
I can't help to feel that the person doesn't even love me for who I am, but they just love me for what type of children I can give them, how they can flex with me off to their homies.
Now, everything you just said, I can flip on you, because you're only talking about dating black men. Does that make you a colorist? Wait, does that make you racist, as a matter of fact? Like, you don't want to deal with any other race? Wait, are you only trying to get with black men? Because
I hope you guys are paying attention. Alright, this is the native word. This is an indigenous word. It's here. When the Sephardic Jews, the crypto Jews, the crypto Muslims, and the Catholics, it was here already when they got here. They adopted that word. We're gonna break down what the species was, alright? I just wanna let everybody know, you guys really gotta get to know me. For those of you who still think that I would go waste my time with little children and debate little children that have no sources. What do you want to debate them? They have no sources. What do you want? That's not a debate. And that's not a real debate. A debate is you got judges, the people can actually qualify the information, not let the kids scream and being disrespectful. That's not a debate. That's entertainment. I understand you guys like entertainment. It's YouTube. I know you guys like vlogs, entertainment, and people doing their podcasts and all that. That's all good. This is not the right channel for us. I'm not that. That's not me. I'm the real one right here. I got real information. Why would I step down? Why would I go down level? It's like Tyson trying to fight one of the Logan brothers in his prime. I'm just serious. Like Tyson trying to go fight some of the Logan brothers in his prime. That's comedy. That's entertainment. Right? Leave these people alone. I understand you guys like entertainment. That's why you're still watching these fools. I don't even know that dude that you guys are mentioning. Right? He supposedly debunked me, right? He showed one little video, like, it didn't even make sense. Right? He didn't show part 1 or 2, but I was part 3 of the Logan information. He don't know none of this information. They don't know none of this stuff. Right? So stop following people. I understand if you want to be entertained, right? Fine, be entertained. Go over there and be entertained. That's entertainment. That's not scholarly research. That's not building. That's hate. That's religious belief. When you're stuck on something religiously like that, without any proof, that's just like any Christian or anybody in any kind of religion. Right? That's just a belief. That's a belief. Alright? We're going to continue. I'm going to show you Amaru was a settlement here in America. Amaru. Continue. We're going to stay on topic and stop talking about these descendants of Neanderthals, because that's who they said they were descended from. straight up in the live I went with them. They told me right out, that's my ancestor right there. They said it, right? I didn't say it. Stop wasting your time with that. Unless you want to be entertained. Are you not entertained? I'm here to teach I'm giving a presentation.
As juvenile court judge, Donna Scott Davenport sometimes called herself. That's according to this report. Now the judge calling her work, quote, God's mission, all while performing so-called God's mission as the head of the county's juvenile justice system, allegedly directing police to arrest children at an alarming rate. It was literally a school-to-jail pipeline, according to this article.
So let me tell y'all how this all came about. So the mother of the county, the judge, instituted a policy that all children charged with crimes be processed through the detention center. So in 2016, 11 black elementary children were detained and were locked up for allegedly witnessing a fight between a 5 and a 6-year-old. And these elementary kids were actually charged with criminal responsibility, which isn't a real charge. She simply made it up.
They were actually making all these indigenous people die for parents and enslaving them. What happened in this area that was known as Amaruka?
Is a threat to justify them staying in detention, and as a juvenile justice advocate, that is a bunch of bullshit. 48% of children were jailed under Judge Davenport's watch. The statewide average at that time was 5%. Oh, it gets worse. So kids as young as 7 years old have been locked up in her county. The county alone has violated the federal law 192 times. Kids have been locked up for more than 24 hours and at times up to 10 days.
How are you still employed?
Rutherford County agreed to pay out $397,000 to the 11 children, and half of that was used on counseling to deal with the trauma in which they had experienced. And the officer who signed off on the charges.
Linden Hills, but I think it has a lot of potential. As soon as they come in paint, I'm going to hang my Ashanti print over the couch, and I got a big...
So fellas, I had to learn this. What you listen to, but I had to learn this. In relationships, never allow
Linden Hills, but I think it has a lot of potential. As soon as they come in paint, I'm going to hang my Ashanti print over the couch, and I thought a big Boston fir would go well in that corner. What do you think? I think it's very fine, baby. Very fine. Thank you. I just wish you'd put in a telephone so your father and I wouldn't have to worry so much. I'm going to get a phone. It's just they want $75 for a deposit. I can't spend that right now. Melanie, I can give you the money. I don't want you giving me money. I want to make it myself. Then let me lend it to you. No. I think it's downright selfish of you the way you make us worry so much. Worry about what? I'm fine. Melanie, anything can happen to you living over here with these people. What do you mean these people? They're my people, Mama, and yours too. Or have you forgotten that over in Linden Hills? It's not where I live, and you know it. I'm in these streets. This house is so shabby and run down. This is how
Alright, I want to point something out talking about these fools, right? So he did a live, they did a live, I guess, and I didn't pay attention. People kept trying to tell me to go on. Again, I'm not wasting my time with that. They just want using cloud. I'm not giving it to them. I gave them already enough. Alright? I appreciate the time they gave me on that fiasco, that bogus platform, which is just about money bags. It's all about money bags. They ain't teaching me nothing there. So what did I read here? It says even to America, right? This is in South America, right? Where it's called Guyana.
Possibly be to these people while you're living hand to mouth on a wild bird's check. At least I'm here in day-to-day contact with my people. Instead of being like you and Daddy and sitting over in Linden Hills with a terminal case of middle-class amnesia. You don't have to live in the slums to care, Melanie. You don't have to try to be something you're not. God, I can't stand it. Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine. I'd rather be dead than be like you. Stuck-up nigger who's ashamed of being black. My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois.
of the colonies. My father was a Bajan who came to this country a cabin boy in a Virgin Marina. I know all that, Mama. Listen. I am alive because of the blood of a people who never screamed. I live in hills, but I think it has a lot of potential.
So, fellas, I had to learn this. Now, what we can listen to?
What is this? What is this? Do you know what that looks like? The top picture looks like? That top picture, I don't know what that bottom picture is, but these are the creatures
Diana,
that
Maria,
are
right?
in these medicines.
Now let me show you something they're trying to point out to supposedly debunk me. So this is one of the things that that clown was pointing out. I'm not even saying his name, but he's a clown. Alright? So this is what he was saying that I was making thing up because I was reading easy his name, Area. And I said, oh look, it sounds like Ameria, right? Just add an N with one word difference. He wouldn't understand those things, you know, when we're talking about languages changing and people changing words around and stuff, and letters going here, missing and adding letters here and there after it changes languages. I was just giving a point and a suggestion there and an opinion at that moment. Right? So that's all you had to debunk me? That's all you had to debunk me? Area? Because I said just add an N, and that's an area. And this is part 3 of the origin of the name America. This is not even part 1 or 2. You skipped over 4 or 5 hours. You skipped over 4 or 5 hours, and you're showing this just because you think you had something. That's why I'm going to call you Mr. Fantastic, actually, for reaching so much. For reaching. Let's go back again. Area, right? He says I was making it up. Egypt was named Area, right? Let's go back. I just read something to you guys. Alright? What did it say here? The information you received from him was that all the regions thereabout, even to Ameria or Ameria were called Guyana. So get me, had this were called Roanoke. We're talking about America, not talking about the real ancient Egypt. Alright, clowns? Alright, clowns.
As the angels say in the Bible. Because this is no longer a game. This stuff is dangerous, and this stuff is a threat. So, that's all I want to say. So, not a coincidence. So, God bless you. What is this? What is this? Do you know what that looks like? The top picture looks like? That top picture, I don't know what that bottom picture is, but these are the creatures that are in these medicines that are being delivered to people, that are being forced upon people. And a doctor or a scientist recently came out and said that when she was investigating and stuff, and she wanted to see what was under the microscope.
1799 to 1804, we got that right already. Humboldt, Alexander the Humboldt, and wrote 3 volumes containing nearly 7,000 pages of modern science. The object of his visit was to study the nature, and we need hardly refer to his rare erudition to be found in this beautiful work, which treats of nearly every subject. From him we learned that the first settlement of the Spaniards on the mainland was Amaraca, Hana. Again, Humboldt, they're reminding us what Humboldt, a very renowned primary source scholar, provided to all the historical societies in a lot of countries in Europe and America, right? He's telling us that the first settlement of the Spaniards on the mainland was Amaraca, Hana, or the country of Amaraca, the land of Amaraca, which with Cumana and Cubagua, both adjoining it, were the chief places of the African slave trade, so frightfully active there in the 16th century until stopped by the Jew Emperor Charles V. Alright, so Sasha Island to the African slave.
Alright, and now that we got a more clear perspective, I want to add, because we saw my recent videos, right? Who was in Cubagua? Pearl diving? Who was being enslaved really? Who were they bringing on the ships? Remember the Lucayans? Remember the Caribs? Remember the Arawaks? And everybody else that was in Hispaniola? and in Guyana and Suriname and all these places, indigenous people they were. Alright, so Darsa Haja, again, this book right here, he's going off on the out of Africa theory. He still thinks, you know, whoever wrote this is still assuming that all those people were so-called. He hasn't studied the actual slave trade. He hasn't studied. When you actually study, you see that the actual people they had on these boats and ships were indigenous people. They never went on a voyage over there. They never recorded going to West Africa. They recorded all their voyages, and they were all over here, and they wrote what they were doing. There's first primary sources writing who they were enslaving. We got it. Check out my last 3 or 4 videos if you don't have the drop, if you've never researched it, all right? Get over your feelings, all right? Charles V was a swarthy man, too. More on more war. Let's go.
Alright. The immense quantity of pearls first attracted the attention of Columbus and the Spanish pioneers who followed him. All of them spoke of it as the Pearl Coast. I remember that the supposed first slaves that were, or Africans that were taken, or a so-called Negro that was put into slavery in an American colony in, I believe, Bermuda or Barbados, was pearl divers, right? They went to get from this region of America, right? This is the Pearl Coast. Remember, these were Indians,
Alright, the Pearl Coast. Where was the Pearl Coast again? You guys already know this information, right? You guys saw my last couple videos. Who were they using to dive for pearls? Where was the so-called blacks really coming from? The Bahamas, the Lucayans, and Hispaniola. They brought over, right? Because they were decimating the local population. They overworked them, so they had to go get more, and then go to Africa to get them. They went to the Lucayans, the Bahamas, and they brought 40,000 of them. Remember? We already read this in primary sources. All right, people from those times writing about what they were seeing. All right? And I hope we don't got no trolls in the house. If you get erased, you get deleted right away. So don't even do it to yourself, because you're gonna have to create a lot of different accounts. That would be childish of you.
Which was on the low shores between the Capes Paria and the La Vela, appearing under the names of coast of Maracapana, or properly Amaracapana. Amaracapana, America, the land, Panama, the land of Amaraca. And Pearl Coast and the Pearl Coast both covered equally the entire shore in Condasi's map of Venezuela, showing the voyages of the Admiral and others. The name Maracapan was written on the early Spanish maps in red, which indicated the places first discovered by Columbus. Alright, this is where Columbus landed, in America, the land of America. Alright? Alright, now we're in this book. It's called Ancient Explorers of America, From the Ice Age to Columbus. Alright, this is the cover of the book, and it's written by Alec Locker. Alright? And it says here, another possible origin of the name America. Children in America are taught that America came from Amerigo Vespucci, the Florentine mariner. Actually, the best evidence dating back to the earliest Spanish documents following Christopher Columbus shows that part of South America, from Venezuela to Peru, alright, from Venezuela to Peru, was called Amaraca. Alright, that region already was called Amaraca. This was an indigenous word, right? America, Amaraca. America, Amaraca. Amaraca. By the Indians of the region. Again, it was called Amaraca by the Indians of that region. Alright, Guyana. Alright, we know who was there originally, indigenously. At least that's what the Spaniards understood. Various spellings of Amaraca occur in Spanish documents, beginning with the visit to that land by Alonso de Ojeda. Alright, we got accounts of him, with whom Vespucci sailed in 1499. Ojeda reported that he received friendly treatment at the hands of the Indians of Maracapana. Maracapana was also written as Amaracapana. Alright, so whenever you see Maracapana, alright, like in this map right here, you'll see it right here, Maracapana. It was also written as Amaraca, America, Amaracapana. So Vespucci, Columbus, all these people landed in this region called America. And they had so much gold and pearls and everything that were coming out of there. They were going back to Spain with all these stories and all this, you know, how there's so many fruits, gold everywhere, there's pearls, all right? El Dorado, you know, the legendary city of El Dorado, there was legends around there. They found an Inca emperor, a brother of Atahualpa. I had fled there with other soldiers and was living there in Manoa. Alright, in this region called America, Pana, the place where Columbus landed, alright, during his voyage past Trinidad and the Orinoco River. Alright, when Columbus got to the Orinoco, you know, he was like, oh, this is the Gishon. This is coming from the earthly paradise. He thought that he was at the Gishon, one of the 4 rivers of Eden. Alright, we already got that passage, right? Apparently the Indians called the general area America and Pana, meant country, alright, or region. So the region of America, that's what they were calling it. Panama is close by, very close by the Colombian Venezuela, Panama, America, the region called America. So they landed in America. You understand? They landed in America. Later visitors to the western regions of South America found that the Incas called their region Amaruca, and various subdivisions of Amaruca or Amarucan priest king, were identified by prefixes such as Kuding Amaraca, or and Amaraca. You're going to see that a lot, this Kuding Amaraca with the Incas. Subsequent spellings included the variant America. It seems possible that while the Simuler labeled that area of the New World America, not in honor of Amerigo Vespucci, so they're talking about this famous map in 1507 that has the word America right on South America. It's a little piece of South America too. They don't even know what it, well, according to that map, they didn't know what it looked like, the whole of South America. Alright? But they have the word America in it, and it says that, you know, they're saying right here, because we know that this region was called America, the region of America, alright? It seems possible that Walden Simuler labeled that area of the New World America, not in honor of Amerigo Vespucci, but following the Spanish name derived from what the Indians called that part of the world, America, America. Thus, like so many places.
Alright. That map was made not because of Medico, but because the indigenous population, the local population, the indigenous people had already called that land Amaruca. The Incas, what did they call it? Amaruca. Land of the plum serpent, land of the Holy Cross. We're about to get that. Alright, let's keep going.
Name America, the continental name, also derives from the Indian word, alright? So like so many places in America, the continent, the name the continent was given derived from this word, America, an Indian word, not the name of Vespucci. Alright? Alright, so we continue in the book, Discovery of the Origin of the Name of America by Thomas de St. Brice. We're in page 43, and it says there was an abundance of fruit, flowers, and beautiful birds in this charming place. Alright, so remember where they're landing, right? They're landing in the land of America, a land of America, Pana, right? And this is the journey that Ojeda, the Spaniard, took with his Italian merchants. It was Vespucci, Alberigo Vespucci, not Almerigo. We're going to see that, alright? So this is basically the route that Columbus took as well. This is the part that Columbus landed into. He landed in America, the land of America, right? South America. And you can see this is paradise. Remember, Columbus said that when he reached the Orinoco, he said it had to have been coming from the earthly paradise, one of the 4 rivers, right?
But what I'm talking about right now is I'm actually showing a screenshot of another book, right? Where this is from Columbus's journals on his 3rd voyage, or 4th voyage to the New World, when he reached South America. When he got to the mouth of the Orinoco, he said it has to be coming from the earthly paradise. This river, he was persuaded, must be rushing down from the summit of the earth. The summit of the earth. They're talking about Mount Roraima, which was an ancient tree where the Lord had planted the earthly paradise. Alright? That was from Columbus' own word about the Orinoco River. Alright, we're going to keep going.
says again, there was an abundance of fruit, flowers, and beautiful birds in this charming place. But they were determined to find some gold where fresh water was to be had, and left Pattaya for the isle of Margarita, where Ojeda landed and coasted from place to place. This shore had already been discovered by the admiral, alright, that's Columbus, who knew the ground and mountain ridges well. In fact, all of this discovery was due to him, as it was from the beginning declared to the king, and yet Ojeda went all along this coast, trading for gold and pearls, gold and pearls, gold coast, pearl coast. From Margarita, he went to Cumana. Remember that in Maracapana, these two names, the ancient name of these two places was Amaraca, which is 270 miles from the island, with towns all along the seacoast. After leaving Cumana, they entered a large gulf, which was surrounded by a thickly populated country. But a river flowed into it, bringing an infinite number of what the Spaniards call lizards, and the Indians caimanes, but which are really the crocodiles of the Nile. These are really the crocodiles of the real Nile. Alright, to the most reliable information. And this being unfavorable for the ships, they anchored in Maracapana or Amaraca, and were well received and served as if they were angels by the great number of people of this district. We discharged the ship's cargoes and repaired them. Aided by the inhabitants, we remained here 36 days. And all this time, the Indians treated us to their bread, venison, fish, and the food was so good. The food was so good that these Indians had, that ever after, when we could not get it, we wished to return home. Wow. Alright, so always, the ancestors were helping these Europeans, we were being humble, we were being kind, showing them love, and you know what they did, alright? Continues a little bit ahead, says, we find from the foregoing history that after searching the entire coast, talking about the coast of South America, the only place where they found a safe harbor, fresh water, good food, and hospitality was Amaraca. So the land of Amaraca, you understand what's going on, right? The land, this beautiful land of Amaraca, right? Where there was gold, pearls, hospitable natives, indigenous people that were treated them kindly. There was fresh water, great food, good tasting food, great food, right? This is paradise. Amaraca, America, Amaraca, which probably accounts for its having been the first settlement on the mainland according to Baron de Hum. The excitement continued unabated in Spain, where several expeditions were spoken of. The gold and pearls sent by Columbus, which he had collected on the coast of Amaracapana. Alright, so Columbus brought back some gold and pearls. He was showing it off over there in Europe and Spain. They were like, wow, where you get that? He was like, I got that in Amaraca. What do you mean Amaraca? Yeah, I got that in Amaraca.
Yeah, America. Yep.
Understand, this name was already here.
Yep.
A land he landed. And Columbus, this was a native word. Alright, the people already were calling this Amaraca, alright? Had caused the greatest curiosity, and John Rodriguez de Fonseca, who had been appointed by the crown receiver of applications for passports and given the map of the coast, which was sent by the admiral to the government, was besieged by navigators who wished to see the chart of the country where these treasures had been collected. Alright, so it became a legend, this land of Amaraca. Alright, continuing, it says Nina and Guerra sailed for America a month after Ojeda, navigating as he did with a copy of the admiral's map, and arrived on the coast of Amaraca, or the country or the land of Amaraca, a few days after he had sailed.
All right. So real quick, shout out to Drop Nation, shout out to 432 the Drop Radio and Drop Nation, all the Drop cons in the chat. Just want to mention real quick, again, let's not forget when they're talking about Nina, Guerra, Ojeda, all these people, a lot of them were colored people, they were Sephardic and Moorish people. Who was the real navigators mooring the ships? Who was the one building ships, who made maps, the cartographers? These were all these kind of people. That's just want to make sure you guys don't forget that, all right? We're not just talking about light-skinned, so-called white people, all right? It's a deeper history, all right? It's okay. We don't control the past, we're just a product of it. But we're just here to learn. Know thyself truly. Know thyself truly.
As returned to Spain, he reported the arrival of English vessels and got permission in 1501 to colonize and govern at his own expense the island of Poquipacoa. The place, however, as shown on our map, was a small isthmus, not an island. He induced Juan de Vergara and Garcia de Ocampo to join him and provide the money. They sailed in 1502 and reaching the Gulf of Paria, traded along the coast of Amaraca, alright, until coming to some cultivated land and a beautiful